Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Just Say Guay. I'm your host, George Guay. Today, I'm joined by the Calgary Flames head coach, Geoff Ward. Geoff, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so before we get into the questions, could you just introduce yourself, where you currently coach, where you've been in the past, things like that?
Well, you got a long time. This could be a long introduction. But I'm currently coaching in Calgary with the Flames. This is my second year here. Previous to this, I was with the New Jersey Devils for 3 years. Before the Devils, I was in Germany, coaching the Adler Mannheim in the DEL, the Deutsche Eishockey Liga, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And before that, I was with the Boston Bruins for 7 years. I was part of the crew that won the Stanley Cup in 2011. I was there from 2007 to 14, and of course, we had a lot of great seasons with the Bruins there. And so that's probably my most recent history. I can go on with all the junior stuff, but it would take forever to get through it all.
What you said is definitely a great resume. So I'm also very happy to have you on. So first question is, what have you been up to during this pandemic, especially from a coaching perspective?
Well, we've been doing a lot of things. At some point, we're believing that hockey is going to come back. So we've been preparing for what that may look like. So myself and the rest of the coaches on the staff, we've been doing an awful lot of things in terms of breaking down teams that will play for the rest of the regular season, if there's a regular season. We've also gone on the option that there may not be regular season, there just may be playoffs. So we've tried to look at what that playoff scenario may be and who we may be playing. We've done some advanced work on those people already. We've also done a lot of the projects that we would normally do in the summer in terms of watching other teams play, seeing what works for them, and maybe are there some things out there that we like that we can use with our team. And we haven't only limited that to the National Hockey League. We've looked at teams in Europe. We've looked at some of the old NHL stuff that's being played on TV to try to catch some things from that, any little detail that we can add that we feel will help us. We've looked for. We've gotten a lot of individual meetings ready for all of our players when they do return, just in terms of helping them along the development path and talking to them about that. So we've had an awful lot of things that we've done as a staff. We put together little motivational videos that we've been sending out to the players to keep them sort of on track with what they need to do in order to be ready to continue to come back, or continue to be ready to come back and play. So a lot of things. So we've really just tried to stay as much routine as we can. As coaches, we're routine oriented. So, I like to get up in the morning and then get a workout in, and then spend some time during the day on my hockey stuff, and then try to make it as normal family evening as possible. So lots of things going on, but as I said, we've tried to keep it routine, and we've been able to do an awful lot of things in the time that we've had off.
Yeah, it just shows you got to make the best out of the situation. So you mentioned the players, and last week I spoke with Ryan Donato, the Minnesota Wild, and he said that in terms of this pandemic, you can work out as much as you want. I even heard this from Brad Marchand too in an interview that he said, and it doesn't simulate skating at all. You can't really do it unless you're fully skating. If the season returns, how long do you think a training camp should be if there is one?
Well, I agree with what both those players have said. The one thing that we've done, I think an awful lot of teams are doing it too, is that guys are converting their skate blades over to Mars blades, which allows them to get outside and simulate the skating motion. So a lot of our guys have been doing an awful lot of training with the Mars blades, which is, I think, been helpful. Still doesn't, fully represent what they go through on the ice in order to start skating again, but it's the closest possible thing that we probably have available right now. So they've been doing that. As far as what it's going to look like when it comes back, what we've been hearing from the league is that there's going to be a phase 2 and then a phase 3. The phase 2 would be returning to practice in small groups at your practice facility. And then phase 3 would be, a normal training camp. And I know the players would like to have 4 to 5 weeks between those two phases to get ready to play again, because they've been off the ice an awful long time. And we need to give them the opportunity, and the time that is required to get back into shape, so that we don't see an awful lot of injury and we see some really great hockey when it does return.
Yeah, I definitely want it back too. So In terms of finishing the regular season, I think in basketball, I don't think they need to, given the fact that pretty much the 1-2 seeds pretty much always go to the conference finals. Maybe a 3 seed can squeak in there. Hockey, it's different. An 8 seed has won the Stanley Cup before with the Kings. Last year, the Columbus Blue Jackets made some noise by knocking off Tampa. You look at the standings right now, Columbus is 3 points behind in the East. 3 teams are behind Columbus, only by 2 points or less. Arizona trails Nashville by 4, Minnesota by 1, and Vancouver's tied for that last spot with Nashville. Do you think that they have to finish the regular season, given that everyone really does have a fair shot?
Well, I know that they would like to, and so I think what the scientists are going to find out about the virus is going to determine an awful lot in terms of what our season looks like when it returns. The best case scenario is that we get all the teams back and we play out the 82 games, and then we move into the playoffs. But if that doesn't happen, I'm sure that the league will be looking at what sort of options are available to run a playoff, where it's competitive, and maybe where some of these teams that are close may be able to get in. So we may see a little bit of a different playoff alignment than normal. And I haven't heard anything that this is the way that it's going to be. I'm just guessing, but understanding that the monies that are at stake here in terms of teams playing, I think is a big factor. And also the fact that teams have done an awful lot in order to put themselves in positions to make the playoffs, and so the league will look at all those things when they make a final determination. But it'll be interesting to see how things go. But I know at the front of their list is the health of the players and all the people that work around the game. And so that will be the primary factor in terms of bringing this thing back.
Yeah, it's interesting really how many factors go into it. So let's backtrack a bit. You started your time in the NHL at the Boston Bruins. You mentioned 7 seasons. What was it like to be in that city? The original 6, the culture of winning, especially you're in a time in Boston sports where pretty much every team is successful. Celtics won in 2008, Red Sox in 2007. The Patriots were the Patriots. What was it like to be, in that mix where all teams were good?
Oh, it was awesome. I mean, to be a sports fan in Boston is a great thing, and especially that time in the 7 years that I was there with all the teams winning championships. The players on the teams got along well. I know they had they knew each other, and guys interacted away from their various sports. I know Claude always really felt good about the fact that he could call Bill Belichick, or the Celtics coaches, the Red Sox guys. It was Terry Francona there then, and run some things by them. So, I even think the coaches had a pretty close relationship. And winning breeds winning. And when you're around that atmosphere all the time, it's great. But I mean, just the players that we had in our locker room at that time, and all the things that we were able to accomplish as a group, it was a lot of fun to be there on a daily basis and see them grow and develop, and ultimately sharing the successes that they had.
Yeah, one of my favorite times about that run, and you can make the argument that the run is still going, was that at the opening day for the Red Sox, the Bruins would bring the cup out, or Celtics would bring their championship out, and when it was over, you could say to yourself, "Whoa, the team that is currently playing on the field right now, they can win a championship too," and kind of keep that cycle going. So let's backtrack even more. Game 7, 2011 Stanley Cup. Both teams won all their home games. How was the team finally able to get that one road win when it mattered the most?
Yeah, it was great. I think the stage was really set for us after Game 6. We were sitting in the room after the game, and Mark Recchi came in, and he just emphatically stated, "There's no way we're going back to Vancouver to lose Game 7. We're definitely going to win." And that was the swagger that we carried onto the plane and back to Vancouver. And we played a fantastic Game 7. And that was one of my coolest moments as a coach on a bench. That last 5 minutes before time ran out, because we knew that we were going to win the cup. I mean, at that point we were up 3-0, and Marcia got a late one to make it 4. And you could just listening to the guys on the bench, in terms of what the talk going on between them was. They were the people that they were thinking of at that particular point in time that had great impacts on their careers. The joking around, the banter going back and forth, the fact that guys couldn't actually believe that it was finally going to be over. All those things. As a coach standing behind that bench for those 5 minutes, it was really, really cool. And it was something I'll never, ever forget. But, it was in our minds right from the end of Game 6 that Game 7 was going to be ours. And the guys carried their business forward and made it happen.
Yeah, it's definitely a game I always remember where I was, being home, 8th grade, about to go to high school. What was that summer like? Because, you get off the plane and the whole city's right behind you. They're ready to party. You got the parade. And I think it set the record for most people at one parade. I don't know if it was up there. It definitely was up there with the 04 Red Sox. And then, you get your day with the cup. You're with your family. What was that, whole sequence like that whole summer?
It was unbelievable. I mean, the Stanley Cup's a rock star all by itself, and it was really cool. I mean, my earliest memory of it, I'll never forget. I had to go downtown to a hotel to pick up, the guy that was looking after the cup and the cup. And I had a Jeep at the time, and we decided we'd put the cup in the front seat of the Jeep and strap it in. And so as we were driving up the road, it was amazing to watch the reaction of the people as they saw the cup in the passenger seat of the Jeep, and people were honking horns and, trying to get you to pull over for pictures. It was, it was amazing. But the city was so much behind us. It was phenomenal. And I know the guys, the one thing that they really appreciated was, and are the fans in Boston. And when we got off the plane, they took the cup right to the fans right away. They didn't wait around. They just went right downtown with it. Made sure that the fans were part of it. It was great. And I remember one thing Johnny Busick said to me, when all the other teams were winning and we were just kind of starting out, he said, the one thing you'll learn quickly about this town, if you're ever fortunate enough to win a Stanley Cup here, is that this is a hockey town first and foremost, more than anything else. And I think we saw that with the size of the parade. It was the noise was deafening. And to see people 5, 6, 10 deep along the side of the road was amazing. And I'll never, ever forget that ride. One of the coolest things was a friend of mine is a gigantic Bruins fan, and he had driven down from Owen Sound, Ontario, which is a long ways away. And he told me where he was going to try to be in the parade route. And I had no idea where he was talking about. And I had ridden on the left side of the duck boat for most of the parade. And something in my head just made me go to the right side at one point. And sure enough, there he was, 7 deep, standing right there waving at me. It was pretty cool. But the parade was awesome. And Johnny Busick was right. It's a hockey city.
Yeah, for sure. And I think what makes it even more special is that when decades go by and people don't see a championship, especially for a sport where it is a hockey town, I think that makes it a bit more special. We saw that with the Red Sox for 86 years. I know the Patriots was only a decade in between the dynasties, but tough championship losses and getting close really makes it more special. So you mentioned you spent some time in Germany. As the head coach, you won Coach of the Year, and you did win a championship for your league. How much did that success give you confidence that you could be a head coach in the NHL?
Yeah, it certainly was. It was great. I mean, the one thing that happened when I went to Germany was I hadn't been a head coach in a long time since the American Hockey League. I had the opportunity to try a lot of different things up to that point in time, but I really treated the year in Germany as a year to experiment in terms of what my coaching philosophy was. The things that I would try to do as a head coach, I gave those things an opportunity to take on their own, come to light, and evaluate it. And I think that experience going to Germany really cemented in me, what I believe in as a coach, what my coaching philosophy is, the way that I would operate back here in North America when I got the chance to be a head coach again. It certainly did give me confidence. But it was a lot of the things that I had gut feelings on, and over the years, it had an opportunity already to sort of to run with on various teams, and so it was really the culmination of a large body of work in coaching. But it was a tremendous experience for me to go away and do that. And the nice thing about it was, it can become a real grind in the National Hockey League in terms of what you're doing every day on a coaching basis. the opportunity to go and do something different was a real breath of fresh air for me. The game became fun again, and it allowed me on a professional development level to study a lot of coaches from a lot of different countries. And I was able to bring back with me 5 or 6 things that, we plugged in right away into Jersey. And, now we're doing them in Calgary that worked well in Europe and have proven to be of real value in the National Hockey League. So for me, the experience over there was great, not only on a personal level, but also on a professional one.
Yeah, I'm glad it worked out for you. And where you are now, it's definitely going well. So speaking of Calgary, you're in Boston. There's pressure to win, but, there's other teams in the city. How's the pressure different in Calgary where, that's the team for the city? I know there's Canadian football, but, there's no NBA, there's no NFL, there's no MLB. Like, that's the team for the city. How's the pressure different?
Yeah, it is a little bit different. Coaching in a Canadian city has a lot of things that are a little bit different. I mean, hockey is the game in town, in all the cities. And so, in terms of what the media portrays, that, there's a lot of media attention. They're around the team all the time. All the games are nationally televised. So there's an awful lot of things that are a little bit different in terms of coaching in a Canadian city than maybe a small market U.S. town are. And that makes it fun. I mean, game day in a Canadian city is game day. And everybody in the city knows it. There's a real feel around it. I think I was fortunate to be in Boston. I think it helped prepare me for what to expect in a Canadian city. And I only say that because being an Original Six team in Boston, that also has a little bit of a different feel. And I think going through the things that we went through as an Original Six franchise in the time that I was in Boston prepared me well for what some of the demands and the expectations were going to be coming to a Canadian city.
Okay, so everywhere you've been for NHL-wise, you've been part of great rivalries, the Rangers and the Devils, Bruins and the Habs, and now you're in the Battle of Alberta with the Oilers. What's this rivalry like compared with others?
It's great. I mean, you watch some of the old games on TV now. I mean, in the 80s and in the early 90s, the Battle of Alberta was gigantic. Both teams were good. Both teams were big, played a heavy style. And you watch some of those games, and I mean, they really, really hated each other. And the hockey was fantastic. And then both teams kind of fell out of the playoffs there for a little bit. And even though the rivalry was still alive, it didn't have the same life. And this year, with both teams, being playoff teams at this point in time in the Western Conference, the rivalry has been rekindled. Both teams are good again. We've had we've had a couple of blowout games in the series so far. We've had a couple of tight games. There's been a little bit of trash talking. There's been some on-ice incidents. And so it's really rekindled. And I think it's so important for the Battle of Alberta to be relevant again. I know, when I talk to guys in other places in the league, they're all can hardly wait for the next installment, of the Flames Oilers, so they can sit down and watch it. And it feels a lot like the Bruins Habs rivalry when I was in Boston. And I think that rivalry is one of the best in sports. So the fact that this one is alive now and it's taken on a life of its own, I think has been not only great for hockey in the West, but I think it's great for the league. And a lot of fans are tuning in to watch it again.
Yeah, it's definitely a great rivalry for sure. So speaking of the Oilers, they had the top 2 guys in points this year. Connor McDavid, everyone pretty much acknowledges him as the next guy. How hard is it to prepare for those two? Because you shut one of them down, it doesn't mean the other one's going to go as well. Both of them can get a point a night. How do you prepare for that two-headed monster?
Well, you got to do it by committee. I mean, they're both such great players, and I had the opportunity to coach Leon when I was with the German national team, and he's a real talent, as is Connor. And the one thing is, I don't think you can totally shut them down like 100%. They're going to get their chances, but you've got to do it by committee and make sure really doing a good job trying to limit their time and space, because if you give them time and space, they're going to make plays on you and plays through you. And I think as a whole, they've got a real good cast around them as well. James Neal's having a good year up there. Some of the guys that are filling in that you would consider to be role players are having tremendous years. Zach Cashin's having a great year. They've got a real good supporting cast around those guys now. And Dave Tippett and his coaching staff has done a tremendous job in terms of what they've done with the Oilers to this point. And they're a legit playoff team for reasons. Those two are a big part of it, but everybody else is chipping in and going. And, at the time of the stoppage, they were playing really, really well. So it's going to be interesting to see how it carries forward. But I know everybody that's an Oilers fan out here is excited about, the potential of that team. But those guys, as a coach, sometimes you got to keep your head in the game. And sometimes you catch yourself watching them because they can do some extraordinary things with the puck and you just kind of go, oh boy, where'd that come from? But they're fun players to watch, and they're great players in our league, and it's a great opportunity, on the nights that we play to have the chance to compete against them.
Yeah, my roommate this year at Providence was a big McDavid fan, so definitely got to see a lot of him play, especially during the night games out on the West Coast. So what's it like also to have a player in your team like Matthew Tkachuk, who is leading the team in points and is second in the team in hits, who really brings the physicality. The only other player I can think in the league who's on that level and bring that physicality is Ovechkin. What's it like to have someone like that in the team?
Well, he's a big, big part of our team. And he's a really, really good player and a great teammate. And for us, the nice thing is he's only 21 years old. So, here's a guy who is just sort of coming into his prime in the league. And he can have an impact on a hockey game in so many different ways on a nightly basis, whether it's on the score sheet, whether it's what he does physically, whether it's, leading his team emotionally and some of the things that he does. This guy comes from a real good pedigree. His dad was a star in the league. He played for the Hunters in London, so he learned a lot of great things coming through junior. And he was a guy when he stepped into the National Hockey League, was National Hockey League ready. And he's a leader on our team. He loves to compete. He loves being on the ice when the games are on the line and in the big moments. And for us, he's going to be a franchise guy for us for a long time, and we're really looking forward to seeing his development continue.
Yeah, the future is definitely bright. So one of the big reasons that I follow the Flames is that one of your players went to my college, and I actually have his shirt. I got it when I went to the Saddle Dome in Calgary. I was out there for a wedding. But Mark Jankowski was a Friar. He was a senior when I was a freshman, great player to watch. He was the associate captain and I think was second or third on the team in points, and definitely has a bright future. What's it like to have him on the team as well?
Yeah, I mean, he's Janko's a real good pro, and I think he had some struggles this year offensively. As of late, as before the lockout before the stoppage hit, he was starting to come around again. He was scoring some goals. But what I really respect about him is that he has the potential to impact a hockey game in so many different ways. He's a big body that has, length, obviously, so he defends well. He's smart so that, he's rarely out of position on the ice surface. And he's got really good hands, and he works on them a lot. And you would have seen it at Providence College. He has the ability to score. He's a premier penalty killer in our league already. We see him down the road as a guy that can play on a power play unit for us. He's shown some real good poise in front of the net in the power play, and he's got good hands in tight, so he's fit in well there. He's been able to score some real nice goals in the NHL from the outside, which is not an easy thing to do all the time, but he's shown an ability to do that. He checks well. We use him as a shutdown guy. We were in Colorado earlier this year, and we used him in the last couple of minutes of the game to go out and shut down the McKinnon line. He did a great job with that. We used him in Buffalo against Eichel. So he has a variety of different ways to impact a hockey game. And he's really, coming along nicely in his development curve. And what I was going to say earlier is I really respect the fact that although this year things didn't go his way early, he didn't quit. He continued to do the things that would help our team win. He gave himself to the hockey team, and as a result now he's come back, off the adversity in a positive way, and now he's starting to get his game on track. That for us, we hope is the most important part of the year when the season gets back again. So we've got nothing but good things to say about Mark, and he's a guy for us that we see as a real leader and a core guy on our team in the coming years ahead.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see where his future goes. Definitely a great player and even better person. So I want to thank you for coming on my show. I wish you the best of luck whenever the season returns. And thanks for coming on.
Thanks, George. Great talking to you.